Where or when does the president believe he's been falsely called racist?
You're kidding, right?
No.
I can't say I'm surprised, but I certainly am shocked when a reporter has the audacity to not ask a question, but to literally claim that President Trump is racist right to Karoline Leavitt's face, to which she does a phenomenal job of putting him in his place. You're not going to want to miss it. Also, in this video, we get a little bit more direction and clarity on what's going on with Iran and the United States. It's going to be great. I think you're really going to love what I've put together for you guys. All I ask in return is for you guys to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and let's get right into it.
On Iran, I'm not asking you for like military secrets here, but can you share?
Know I would be so unwise.
Unless you want to give them. Can you share a little bit about the president's thinking on whether or not to strike Iran, who he's talking to, what information he's consuming, and why a strike might be necessary on a nuclear program he says was obliterated by the last U.S. strike?
Well, there's many reasons and arguments that one could make for a strike against Iran. The president had a very successful operation as commander-in-chief with Operation Midnight Hammer, as you know, as you just said, totally obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities. The president has always been very clear, though, with respect to Iran or any country around the world, diplomacy is always his first option, and Iran would be very wise to make a deal with President Trump and with this administration. He's talking to many people. Of course, his national security team, first and foremost, and you know who the members of that team are. And this is something, obviously, the president takes seriously. He's always thinking about what's in the best interest of the United States of America, of our military, of the American people, and that's how he makes decisions with respect to military action of any kind.
Is the president seeing enough progress in the Iran talks to let negotiations go a little further? I mean, where do things stand after yesterday's talks?
I think you heard from the administration and the State Department yesterday that there was a little bit of progress made, but we're still very far apart on some issues. I believe the Iranians are expected to come back to us with some more detail in the next couple of weeks, and so the president will continue to watch how this plays out. Sure.
Follow up on that. Thank you, Karoline. On these Iran talks, I mean, how much time is the president willing to give it before he is seriously maybe considering military action? Is he willing to give it that full 2 weeks? And has he given the Iranian officials a deadline on when he wants to see a deal?
It's a fair question, Rachel, but I'm not going to set deadlines on behalf of the president of the United States.
They must have done this press conference before the official statement was released, but Iran has until the end of this month of February to make a deal, and if it is not good enough, either sometime in that period or right at the end of February, the United States will strike the regime in Iran and do a whole regime change. That's literally been said by President Trump.
On Cuba, you know, it's increasingly being described as a humanitarian crisis. What is a successful outcome for the U.S. that the U.S. wants to see in Cuba? Is there anything less than regime change that would be considered success?
I think, as Secretary Rubio has articulated and the president himself, we obviously want to see flourishing and prosperous democracies all over the world, especially in our own hemisphere. I'm not dictating any actions the United States may take to get there, but of course that's in the United States' best interest to have Cuba be a truly free and prosperous democracy. Unfortunately, right now, that is not the case. They are a regime that is falling, their country is collapsing, and that's why we believe it's in their best interest to make very dramatic changes very soon, and we'll see what they decide to do.
Personally, I think if the United States went into Cuba and took better control of Cuba with the regime there, the way that they're kind of doing with Venezuela, it would be really good for, you know, not only just military positioning for the United States, but also for tourism. Cuba is very much suffering. Their economy is absolutely atrocious. And with a little, you know, United States magic and a boost in tourism, a boost in investing, I think Cuba could really turn around and be a phenomenal place. After all, it is beautiful. The island there, the beaches, the climate, it is wonderful. It's just run by really corrupt people.
Sure. Yesterday, Zelensky said in an interview that he says that it's not fair that the president is saying that Ukraine has to make concessions. He's saying this publicly, and not Russia. Has the president seen these comments? And when the president says that Ukraine has to make concessions, is he referring to giving up Donbass?
I think the president would respond to that by saying he does not think it's fair that thousands of Ukrainians are losing their lives, and Russians too, in this deadly war. And that's why the president and his team have committed a tremendous amount of time and energy in bringing this war that is very far away from the United States of America, but nevertheless, this is a president of peace. And so he's committed a tremendous amount of time and energy to bringing this war to an end. Just yesterday, there was another round of trilateral talks between the U.S., Russia, and Ukraine. There was meaningful progress made in both parties. Both sides agreed to update their respective leaders and to continue to work towards a peace deal together. So there will be another round of talks in the future, but I think the president views this entire situation as very unfair, not just for Russians and Ukrainians who have lost their lives, but also for the American people and the American taxpayer who were footing the bill for this war effort before President Trump put a stop to it. And I would just remind everyone around the world that the United States is still selling weapons to NATO that are then being sent to Ukraine in their defense of their freedom in their borders. Michael.
Caroline, Russia is reportedly joining Iran for joint naval exercises in the Gulf of Oman this week. Has the president issued any kind of warning to Russia or even China not to involve itself if the U.S. decides to strike Iran?
Not to my knowledge, no, or not that I would dictate from this podium. I wouldn't reveal the president's private conversations with world leaders. With respect to that, again, when it comes to Iran, the president has a decision to make, and he will do that, and I'm not going to broadcast what that decision may be ahead of him.
Again, to reiterate what's happened after this press conference did go live, is the president of the United States did confirm, the White House did actually confirm that Iran has until the end of February to make a deal. But sometime in between then, the United States can actually strike. And even right now, you've got air defenses that are being, that are getting ready for potential attacks in Israel, and Tehran is getting ready to start to do an attack. So things are very much picking up, and we could actually see some action sometime this week or even weekend.
Yesterday, in his statement about Jesse Jackson, the president said, despite the fact that I'm falsely and consistently called a racist by the scoundrels and lunatics on the radical left, Democrats all, it was always my pleasure to help Jesse along the way. Where or when does the president believe he's been falsely called racist?
You're kidding, right? No. I will pull you plethora of examples. I'm going to get my team in that room to start going through the internet of radical Democrats throughout the years, Ed, who have accused this president falsely of being a racist. And I'm sure there's many people in this room and on network television across the country who have accused him of the same. In fact, I know that because I've seen it with my own eyes. And the president very much looks forward to having an event later this afternoon at 3 p.m. to celebrate Black History Month and to talk about how his policies are advancing opportunity and prosperity for all Americans through record tax cuts, through the Trump accounts that all Americans can access regardless of race. These are a great thing for the next generation of Americans. The president has also awarded hundreds of millions of dollars in additional funding to strengthen educational outcomes at historically black colleges and universities across the country. Again, the president is protecting the hard-earned benefits of the 2.4 million black veterans who honorably served in our nation's armed forces by reducing the backlog of veterans waiting for their VA benefits and for their home loans through the Department of Veterans Affairs. So there is a lot this president has done for all Americans regardless of race, and he has absolutely been falsely called and smeared as a racist, and I'm happy to provide you those receipts, and we gladly will right after this briefing.
Oh my goodness, the audacity, bro, again, it's just Trump derangement syndrome. Racist, racist, racist. This is what the left does. If they don't agree with you, they call you a Nazi, they call you a racist, they call you all these derogatory things, and then they try to fucking kill you. They've tried to kill President Trump, they killed Charlie Kirk. We see what they're doing in schools, the transgender stuff. Like, there's just so much going on. When they don't agree with you, they attack you. It's getting out of hand. President Trump is not a racist. It's been proven. Let's just move on. Awesome job by Karoline Leavitt for putting that reporter in his place.
The White House has touted an unprecedented amount of cooperation with counties in Minneapolis after the negotiations with Tom Homan Are those written or verbal deals with the sheriff? How many have agreed to cooperate on immigration enforcement who previously refused to do so?
Yeah, the last time I spoke with Mr. Homan, which was just a few days ago, he assured us that nearly every single county in the state of Minnesota has agreed to notify ICE when they are releasing criminal illegal aliens from their jails. This is an unprecedented level of cooperation that we have not seen. It has led to not only cooperation to detain illegal aliens in Minnesota, which just this past week I have looked at the list. They've detained some very heinous people who none of you would want living in your communities, but has also led to a much more calm situation on the ground. We've also seen, and you've seen this with your own eyes play out, the local police and the state police have now cooperated in the arrests of left-wing agitators and criminals who are unlawfully obstructing immigration enforcement in their efforts. So this is a huge win, and again, the president sent Mr. Homan to Minnesota to do a job, and he has done it well, and I think the situation on the ground proves that.
Are those like written agreements that they've been signed by various officials in the state?
These are agreements that have been made by state and local officials in the federal government, and we are seeing that cooperation play out every single day. These counties are notifying ICE when they are releasing criminal illegals from their jail, and we do know that they are arresting left-wing agitators who are unlawfully impeding law enforcement. There's video to show that. Show it yourself. You can view it with your own eyes.
President Trump just said on Truth Social that it would be a big mistake for the UK to hand over control of Chagos Islands to Mauritius. But the State Department earlier this week has said that the U.S. does support that handover. So does this post now suggest that the U.S. does not, or that President Trump had changed his mind on this?
The post should be taken as the policy of the Trump administration. It's coming straight from the horse's mouth. When you see it on Truth Social, you know it's directly from President Trump. That's the beauty of this president and his transparency and relaying this administration's policies to all of you and to the rest of the world.
This is something that a lot of people really admire, and it's part of the President Trump charm, is his ability to talk when he's in front of a podium, when he's in front of a microphone. He's able to speak in a way that people can actually relate to. He doesn't have the political verbiage and the non-answers and all that stuff. He talks like a relatable person, how you and I would talk sitting at a bar. That is phenomenal. Also, the fact that he's so in touch with social media and just having that direct line of communication between the president, who's, obviously a very difficult person to get a hold of, and his opinions used to be only expressed on once in a while a podium, or every now and then the newspaper would print something, a quote, but now it's every day, almost every hour, we get to hear directly from him in one way or another. So I think that is phenomenal. The fact that the world's kind of changing in that direction, I think that's like one of the best things about social media.
A series of walkouts from public school students that have been sort of provoked by a number of public school administrators. What are your thoughts on this? What's the administration's thoughts on this? Will they be taking any actions on these walkouts against ICE?
Look, I think obviously the president and the administration support the First Amendment rights of all American citizens, and if they're peacefully protesting, then that's their constitutional obligation and right and responsibility to do so. Of course, the administration also wants to see American school children in school learning and educating, and I think it does speak to the left-wing bias that is unfortunately very present in our nation's public school system, and it's something that Secretary McMahon has been working very hard to root out of our public school system by ensuring that local governance and local control takes place over our nation's public schools, and that parents and educators closest to students have a greater say over curriculum and academia in our country. Take a couple more. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. The Vatican announced earlier today that they would not be joining the Board of Peace initiatives over concerns that it could potentially compete with the United Nations over handling crisis conflicts. What's the White House's response to that?
Yeah, look, we saw that. I think it's deeply unfortunate. I don't think that peace should be partisan or political or controversial. And of course, the administration wants all those who were invited to join the Board of Peace to join. Because again, the Board of Peace is overseeing the reconstruction of a territory that has been plagued with violence, with bloodshed, with poverty for far too long. And this president has a very bold and ambitious plan and vision to rebuild and reconstruct Gaza, which is well underway because of the Board of Peace. This is a legitimate organization where there are tens of member countries from around the world, and we think that's an unfortunate decision.
Caroline,
Caroline,
can you tell me, is there an update regarding the tariff rebate checks that the White House has promised?
I don't have an update for you on timeline, but I know that it's something that the president and his economic team continue to very seriously discuss.
I've got two questions. First, does the president see some sort of religious or prophetic component to the unfolding developments in the Middle East?
I haven't spoken to him about that particular perspective, to be honest with you, but of course the president wants peace for all people of all faiths all around the world, and that's part of his push to create peace in the Middle East, which he has done successfully.
And my second question is, as his popularity rises around the world, and especially in regions where he's invested so much effort in promoting peace and ending wars, do you think we might be watching the emergence of a global MAGA movement? Is this something that the president has discussed at all?
Well, I don't know, Jake, but I sure hope so.
I mean, we saw what just happened with Japan. Japan's right-wing, party just got the biggest majority government that they've pretty much ever had, and they are cracking down on immigration, they're cracking down on non-citizens, and that's phenomenal. I do think that the MAGA mentality, not only are other countries realizing that, yeah, America's actually a phenomenal place. That's where everybody wants to be. That's where every business owner wants to invest in, and that's where people want to put their money. It's not only that, but it's also giving the confidence for people from other countries to start to speak up against their governments and to start to actually push forward policies, or giving politicians from other countries the confidence to actually be a little bit more common sense and get rid of that woke crap. So it's phenomenal what President Trump has not only done for America, but also the trickle effect for the entire world. That's my opinion. That's the video. I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. Let me know your favorite part. As always, if you did enjoy, it'd be super awesome for you guys to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in another one. Bye for now.